BYOD, Business Opportunity or Big Headache? A presentation by Hannah Ross for CIS 2050 online. Some salient points in this case that I noticed are that BYOD represents growing problems for organizations. First, I would like to point out that BYOD stands for Bring Your Own Device, which is when employees of a company would utilize their own personal cell phone or laptop instead of the company providing one for them. However, this raises a lot of concerns with security. If there is a breach on a personal device, all connections to company information could be hacked, and if the device is lost, it is not protected. This case covers the BYOD policies between Michelin North America and Rosendin Electric. Some current IT events related to this case is that Michelin recently increased mobile email users from 900 to over 1,500. When first starting out with the BYOD process, they only allowed a limited amount of employees to use their phones for email because they wanted to ensure that there would be no system failure and that important emails would not be leaked. Increasing mobile email users, they were able to neutralize costs, which means they don't have to pay as much for the security process once they got all the kinks figured out, and it increased productiveness. To answer the case questions that were posed at the end of this case study, the first one is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of allowing employees to use their personal smartphones at work? An advantage is that it allows companies to spend less on equipment, such as work phones for employees. This tremendously cuts down costs if you factor in the number of employees that these companies have. However, disadvantage is that there needs to be a large amount of IT resources to protect these platforms, especially with the important data that could be on them. There's also no possible and legal way to track an employee's personal phone. This would be going against many privacy policies. The second question is, what management, organization, and technology factors should be addressed when deciding whether to allow employees to use their personal smartphones at work? On the management side, they'll have to rethink their policies on what is allowed on technology, since they cannot control employee personal property. Therefore, what app usage or messaging usage would cause a negative impact on the company if it were on a phone that had the same platform as company information. Organizationally, there would need to be a structure in the platforms that are allowed and solely are for work. Therefore, if the employee was to use their email, they wouldn't want them using their personal email at the same time, with texting as well and images. Technologically, there has to be a massive amount of protection with the company data. For instance, if Michelin is using their personal devices, if there are very important numbers that need to be kept private, a breach in security could cause a major leak and issue for the company. Third question asks, compare the BYOD experiences of Michelin North America and Rosendin Electric. Why did BYOD work at Michelin so well? The reason it worked at Michelin so well is that they offered reimbursements for use of devices in the company workplace. It gave the employees an incentive to use their devices. They also kept track of the devices very well. However, Rosendin took a very different approach. They restricted a multitude of apps, and from management's perspective, this just shows distrust with the employees. The fourth and final question posed at the end of this case is, allowing employees to use their own smartphones for work will save the company money. Do you agree? Why or not? Personally, I do agree that it will save the company money. The same IT expenses that the company has to use to protect their employees' phones would be used anyway if they were to buy their own employees' phones. This just cuts down on the cost of supplying employees with more personal devices. Some applicable course concepts that I noticed while reading this case study is that management and governance can change how a BYOD policy will be managed within a company. From a management perspective, if they have the ability to change the policy, it will therefore have a dramatic ripple effect on the company's success and culture. Like with Rosendin, their culture declined because there was that weird power dynamic of distrust between management and employees. Therefore, that's why Michelin was so successful. Some case updates. BYOD policies are beginning to be implemented in many more companies, not just Michelin and Rosendin. It has also been recognized that companies are more effective when employees can utilize technology without restrictions at work. It just creates a sense of freedom in which employees are allowed to be more creative and therefore helps the company in the end. Now, when I was reading this case, I came up with two questions that I would like to pose. The first one is, this case heavily discusses the technology and costs associated with BYOD. However, what does that mean for accountability policies and employer regulations? It means that companies will expect all employees to be mindful of their online presence and only use secure websites. It also means that HR will have to create a policy to implement, making sure employees are accurately representing the company online. You're not going on any illegal sites, not going in any area of the web that is forbidden on a company computer. The second question I came up with is, what is wrong with Rosendin Electric heavily controlling their employees' app usage and online presence? Now, as I discussed earlier in this case, Rosendin management heavily controlling their employees' app usage on their personal phones created a distrust between employees and management. Additionally, the protection that they need to create also created extra costs, which the expenses incurred harmed the company in the end.